What are the kind of factors that are going to enable the creation of green jobs? For us at 𝗂𝗵𝗁𝗲𝗏 and here at Green Jobs Africa, there are 5 enabling factors that will increasingly or will create a more rapid growth in the green economy sector and specifically in the creation of green jobs. And the first one is political goodwill. Like I mentioned in a previous episode, one of the challenges that has been faced by the current push in the climate change space is that there's just no sufficient political goodwill. What exactly do I mean by that? I mean that if your political leadership is not aligned towards addressing the issue of climate change, it will be very difficult for the business environment, for the policies in that environment to be implemented, because the absence of political goodwill is what frustrates or does not enable the other factors that I'm going to be mentioning shortly. So the need for political goodwill cannot be overstated. And that brings me to the second point. While you could have political goodwill, it has to be matched with the right policies, because you could have great political goodwill, support for climate action, and the right understanding as far as addressing the issue of climate change. But in the absence of enabling policies and enabling laws, it could be very difficult to achieve anything in the first place. And this kind of enabling laws could be, what are the laws around investments? How are we encouraging, for example, new technologies like direct air capture or new technologies in the climate smart agriculture space? How do we reduce the use of harmful pesticides and fertilizers and introduce the use of organic and regenerative practices that enable farmers to reap a lot more from what they're putting in terms of their farms right now, and enable them to be able to not just feed their families, but be able to export and earn from their livelihoods? Enabling policies play a big role, not just in terms of enabling the population of a country, but they also result in the GDP, the economic performance of a country. If we have laws that are regressive, for example, or laws that contribute adversely to the investment climate, it could directly affect the performance of the country economically, but also reduce or impact the number of jobs that could be created. The third thing that would enable the creation of green jobs in a country is the education system. It's evident that climate change as a whole is an emerging sector. As we did in a past episode, we saw that even the push around nations and then finally coming to the place where they agree that it's an issue that needs to be dealt with has only just increased in the recent past. But that means that many of the countries, and especially in the global south, do not have the requisite curriculums to be able to address the issue of climate. How many young people know what climate change is? How many young people know what carbon markets are? How many young people know what carbon sequestration is? Number 4 that would enable the creation of green jobs is data, the availability of data. It's been said many times that there is an absence of data, especially aggregated data in the African space. But in my view, in the recent past, I found that that is not necessarily so. The challenge is that there could be data, but it's not available in the form that would make sense to anybody. There's requirement of too much effort to be able to make sense of it, enough to either create a policy or to inform decision making or even interventions that are needful, especially in different sectors, but more specifically in this case, in the climate change space. So how do we improve data creation, especially in this age of AI? We do need to leverage the emerging technologies to increase our access to data and our use of data in making decisions. And again, one of the projects that we are working on as 𝗂𝗵𝗁𝗲𝗏 Africa is a project around the creation of an index that would enable many countries to know where are the jobs, how many are they, what sectors are actually generating the most jobs right now, and in the future, 5 years from now, what will be the sector that will be most demanding in terms of jobs, and how do we ready our young people towards that? And it's needful, and hopefully that once we are done with this particular instrument, it will be able to enable many countries to improve their interventions when it comes to creation of green jobs. And finally, but definitely not least, is climate finance. One of the things that we have spoken about many times over is that the absence of climate finance makes it impossible for businesses to be able to thrive in the creation of green jobs. Access to loans or access to finance that enables them to, for example, invest in renewable energy, or young people who have brilliant ideas but have no access to climate finance literally stifles their creativity. So there is a need to increase not just the availability, but to diversify the kind of finance that is needed, or to diversify the kind of instruments of finance that can be accessed by different categories of people. Women, young people, they're differently and disproportionately affected by climate change. So how can they access finance that would enable them to play a role in the green space? Young people who have brilliant ideas need to be able to have access to low interest finance or de-risked finance that enables them to be able to generate ideas or implement ideas that will enable them to create jobs for themselves and for other people. Governments, even as African heads of state, have been pushing and championing, and also back to the Bridgetown agenda.